on this computer. All right, we are live. What's going on, guys? Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We got 20 people in here. So today we have a special guest, and his name is Rob. He's going to be introducing himself a little bit later with his background. But welcome, everyone. Today, I just want to quickly go over where everyone's from. We got Vincent. We got Tenma from Rhode Island. We got Tampa Bay in the house, or Tampa. Lewis, we got San Diego, Orange County, another San Diego, Cleveland, Miami, New Zealand. Welcome. Any Canadians in the house or Vancouver? Hey, we got a Vancouver here. We got Toronto Raptors. All right, awesome. Okay, that's awesome. Cool. So yeah, like I said, welcome to today's webinar, first one ever. And we got a camera here. Let me just shut that off. One quick second. Whose camera is that? Wendy's. How do I? One second. Give me 1 second here. All right, Rob, you can still hear me, right? Sorry, guys. Clearly, it's my first time ever doing this. Give me 1 quick second, Rob. I muted you by accident.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yeah, all right. Good. All right, you know what? Cut out the BS. Rob, hit it. Who are you? What do you do? And what are you going to be talking about to us today?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Rob Cosman. I'm a Canadian CPA. So I see there's a bunch of Americans here, so some of it won't be exactly relevant, but it's still going to be pretty relevant, just the fact that a lot of the tax systems are the same. But I'm a CPA. I've been at it for 15, 16 years. My wife and I have our own accounting practice. She's a CPA as well. We've been at that now for about 6 years, mostly all small businesses. But the last 2 or 3 years, we've really ramped up and got a lot of Amazon sellers, particularly the Canadians, obviously, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, if you want to ask me a few questions about just some accounting and bookkeeping and, some high-level stuff, not a problem. Today, I put together a list of a few mistakes and some stuff that is commonly overlooked that a lot of sellers don't think about or might not get into. So we can just kind of go through that, open it up to questions. I'll try to answer what I can, but, this is taxes. I'm a CPA, but I'm not your CPA. So, talk to your CPA, get independent advice, or pay me, and I'll tell you for real. But no, I'm just kidding. The fact is, everybody needs to still do their own due diligence. Some of the stuff I won't be able to get into because I don't want to express an opinion. But a lot of the stuff is pretty common that we can discuss, and hopefully get some tips and tricks out of it that you didn't think about, or answer a couple quick questions that you might have. So
awesome, guys. Yeah. So. Awesome. So if you guys have any questions, which I'm sure a lot of you guys do, please leave them in the group chat. Just write them out. You can start whenever, and I will start curating all the questions, and I'll read those back to Rob. But for now, he's going to go into some of the things that us Amazon sellers kind of overlook. And then we'll go on from there. We'll try to keep it within 1 hour because I know it's, Monday night and people probably still have stuff to do. So
for sure. So, the other thing is, again, I'm a Canadian trained CPA, Canadian tax knowledge. I understand accounting and bookkeeping, so that, goes across the borders. But the tax advice that I have and the knowledge is specific to Canada. So if you want to ask me detailed U.S. questions, I'm not going to know, and I'm not your guy. I am currently in Costa Rica. It doesn't mean I didn't forget all my Canadian tax stuff. So I'm still well aware. Let's just jump into it, and I'll give you a few kind of common mistakes that maybe some people, a lot of sellers kind of overlook or don't really get into. And if you have some questions about that, we can jump into it. But, let's just start with the common mistakes that I've got. What do I always see? Most Amazon sellers, it's really simple to get your sales. You pull your sales reports out of Amazon. You get exactly how much you sold, what your Amazon fees were. But, the big thing is making sure that you're capturing all your expenses. It sounds simple, it sounds stupid, but making sure that you are correctly recording everything that you bought. And this is where people kind of get away from it, and people start, hey, Rob, I have a box of receipts. Well, that's great. Oh, now it's overwhelming because I don't know what I have. And, people allow it to get away from themselves and don't do the necessary work at the start to set up like a QuickBooks or a Wave or something like that and do your bookkeeping correctly. I bought QuickBooks and got overwhelmed. Okay, well, now you're probably at the point where you're not going to come back to it. It's easy to get overwhelmed, but it's easy to also get back on track. I tell my clients, start with your credit card or your bank statements. People get caught up with, oh, here's a big box of receipts that I need to go through and I need to organize them somehow. No, just start with your bank statement or your credit card statement. You can download them digitally, download them in a CSV file or Microsoft Money or something like that. Most of the online banking services have them, and then upload it into QuickBooks or Wave, and then that's half the battle. Now you've got your data in there. Now it's a matter of going through and just correctly classifying things. The nice thing about QuickBooks is once you do a few purchases, it'll automatically start remembering them, and you kind of set rules. So you spend a little bit of time up front, but then every time you import your credit card transactions, it's like, oh, look, here, you bought something from Walmart. Let me put this in your purchases. Not a problem. You want me to do that for the rest of the Walmart ones? Sure. Then you just get into that routine. No, nobody wants to do it every month. Maybe you do it every other month, or, do it every quarter and upload it. Kind of keep a handle on it. It takes a little bit of time up front to set up your QuickBooks or Wave or something. Then, do it. If you're brand new and you're not really sure this, Amazon seller thing is for you, just use Excel. Just keep track of stuff, right? Just set up some simple templates of what you're selling and what your costs are. The other thing that people get caught up on is bookkeeping for taxes and bookkeeping for to actually know if you sold stuff, right? If you sold stuff profitably. Now, most people, if you're in the States, you're probably using inventory labs. So you have that kind of management accounting tool to figure out, hey, did I actually make money on it? If you're selling on .ca, unfortunately, inventory labs doesn't work there. So that's when you need to either have some sort of an Excel sheet or using something a little more in depth to double check that you're selling things properly. Now, if you're doing private label and you've only got 2 or 3 different SKUs to manage, well, you should know at that point. So you probably don't need an in-depth Excel sheet to track each individual item that you're selling. You know what your buy costs are and whatnot. Another thing in Canada particularly is people get hung up on not registering for GST and HST right away. So the rule is you don't have to register for GST and HST until you hit the 30K. Now, some people think, oh, I'll just sell some stuff and then I'll register and decide to. Now, if you're bringing in product overseas and it's coming into Canada, quite often you're going to pay duties and taxes. And a lot of that ends up being GST and HST. So if you're bringing that in and you're not registered for the GST, then you're not getting that money back. If you're selling in Canada, most people expect they're going to pay HST or GST on their products anyways. They don't care. They kind of expect that. The flip side is when you go out and you buy items and you pay GST and HST on it, you get that money back. So by not registering, basically all the costs of goods, of everything that you're buying, is between 5 and 15% more. So that's straight to the bottom line if you register right away. Now, it's a bit of paperwork, obviously, to do it, but why not? Just register. Do it
Yeah, I actually got a question there. Sorry to budge in there, but I order my products from China and they get sent straight to my warehouse in the States. They never come into Canada. So,
right.
So what you just said about saving the 10 to 15% wouldn't really apply to my case?
No, because you wouldn't be charging any duties that you'd be paying would be the U.S. government probably that would come in.
Right.
If you brought that to Canada, then you would.
Okay, got it.
The flip side is you're still spending stuff in Canada right now, just, computer paper and monitors and things like that, right? So even if you were strictly only selling on .com and you're bringing stuff directly into the States and you're basically bypassing, you're still running as like a Canadian entity. So you've still got, printer paper expenses at home that, you can claim that HST back on, or GST in your case because you're in BC. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, but people get all hung up and they're like, oh, I don't need to register until I get 30. Well, most people when they're just starting out, they're going to do some RA or buy a few products, and you're still going to bring some stuff in. If you're in Canada anyways, you're going to bring some samples in and pay some duties, and why not get it back? It's straight money, easy money. Inventory and COGS, cost of goods sold and inventory. This is a big thing right now at the end of the year. People don't necessarily understand how cost of goods sold and inventory works. So I don't want to dive too deep into it, but just make sure that you understand your inventory is what you have on hand, what you haven't sold. The cost of goods sold is what you've actually sold. So some clients get worried about their bookkeeping and what their inventory is. Like if you're just a small seller, I recommend most of my clients, you basically expense everything throughout the year. Just call it all a purchase. Don't worry about it. When you get to the end of the year, take a look, download a report for your ending inventory out of either Inventory Labs if you're using that, or download your report out of Amazon, and then just go through that and figure out what your ending inventory is. And you take that out of your cost of goods sold, right? So if you've got, great, I purchased $1,000 all year long, my ending inventory was $100, the $900 is what you actually expense. And that's what has to be expensed on for your taxes, because the inventory is an asset and that's still there until you actually sell it. Now, here's a good nugget. It's probably the exact same in the States, but check out the valuation of your inventory. In Canada, you're valuating your inventory on your cost or the lower of fair market value. So if you bought something and it tanked and it's not worth the $100 or $50 you have now, at the end of the year, don't value it at the $50 and what you paid. Take it on the chin now and say, you know what, this is really worth only $1, and write it down. So what does that do? That brings your ending inventory down. So it increases your expense during the year. So hopefully save you a few dollars. Now, you got to be realistic. You can't say, okay, all my inventory is worth $1 now. It's got to be realistic, but, take the time to go through it and say, okay, were these couple losers, should I mark them down to 0? Fine. If you end up selling them next year, so be it. You'll earn the gain at that point and be taxed in that year. But for now, take it now. Take the tax advantage here. The other thing that people don't always double check is when you report your GST and HST and you're actually filing it, make sure your sales numbers match what you actually file with the government. So go through and just double check when you file your sales tax reports. If you say, you know what, this year I sold $102,000, make sure that when you report it on your actual sales, your tax return, it matches the same amount. Right? People don't do that. That's just a red flag right away. Mm-hmm. What you want to go? What do you got? A few questions coming in you want to talk about, and just kind of see where that goes. Oh, Tom, I can't hear you.
Oh, you can hear me now. Okay,
yeah,
cool. Awesome. So we got one from Derek saying, can we also, I guess, talk about how sales taxes work for Canadians selling on Amazon.com, please? Do we have to collect sales taxes, and how does that work as Canadians?
So this is the big gray area that I'm sure everybody's read about with, should Amazon be collecting and remitting to the different states? There is, the way they read it and the way they term it is, if you have what they call a nexus in a state, and what they consider a nexus could be anything from you storing inventory to having a sales office. If you get a sales office, it's a little more hard line, but the gray area is that if you store inventory, in theory, you should register to collect sales tax there, state sales tax. Most of my clients don't. They take the stance with the government, with the Canadian government, that I'm a Canadian company, either a sole proprietor or a corporation, and I'm exporting everything. And the end users, the end customers in Idaho or Florida or whatnot, and they don't register because everything is based in Canada. They fill out the W-8 and don't charge it. Now, is there a risk to that? For sure. Just like any American, selling, it's what are you comfortable with? And this is where I'm not going to give you a right or wrong answer. If you want to go out and you want to register and collect, hey, so be it. This is the same thing that everybody in the States is going through. Should I be registered? What state should I register in? Just the fact that if I send inventory to one warehouse, Amazon could ship it off to 3 or 4 warehouses, and I don't know. So how am I supposed to know that? And then I've got to go and figure out, okay, what warehouse did you end up transferring it to? And now I should immediately register for that state. If you've ever filed some of the state taxes, it's pretty onerous. Different states, different counties, different fire stations. Like there's all kinds of different regional sales tax. It's a nightmare. That's why you got to use something like TaxJar, in my opinion, if you actually do register and you want to do it. But for my clients, that don't register, don't charge it, we all take the stance that, we're exporting, and you report those sales as sales converted into Canadian dollars, but you don't charge the tax because they're all exports, is what you say. Now, is there a gray area if you're getting a bunch of inventory as a private label seller, let's say, and you're shipping it to a warehouse in the States, and everything always comes into one? Well, if you're a $5 or $10 million seller and you have one warehouse that your freight forwarder, your prep company's at, then you might want to say, you know what, maybe I want to de-risk it. Maybe I should bite the bullet, register. You're just going to collect the tax anyways. The end user, the original buyer, for the most part, expects to pay sales tax anyhow. So It's just the fact that you got to go through and register and then manage the cash flow and pay them, right?
Right. Next, it's also from Derek. He said, also opinion on setting up a corporation in Canada or LLC in the States. If you're a Canadian seller, should you set up anything in the States at all?
I wouldn't. If you're just starting, no, keep things simple. That's what I tell people, like, oh, should I set up an LLC? And should I file this weird filing that, it shows with the IRS so I can reclaim it back? No, just try to keep things simple. If it gets bigger and it gets more onerous, and then you get, you'd be like, oh, well, I want to open up a wholesale account. And somebody's like, oh, I need a reseller certificate, so I should go open in the States. No, just give them your GST HST number. Most of those guys just want to check the box on the application. You give them a number and they throw it in. There's 50 different states. So, every state has different reseller numbers. Guys just want to check the box when you fill out the application.
Right.
Try to keep things simple. People ask, oh, should I go get an EIN? Should I do that? Hey, all that's fine. I just like to tell the IRS less. If you're a Canadian, just try to tell them less.
Yeah. Okay.
That's fine. So I wouldn't bother.
Yeah. And also just starting up lean, guys. At the beginning, the first mistake that I made with my business was the fact that I thought I'm going to be this multi-million dollar business. And I went out, I got an accountant, I got a lawyer, I spent so much money just on the initial setup stages. And the product itself wasn't even selling well. So that's kind of the lesson I learned is, just start up as lean as possible. And when you start making money, when the market starts telling you that, hey, I like this product, and you really see yourself making a lot of money, 7 figures, 8 figures, by the time you have $10 million, hire someone else like Rob and let the professionals do what they do, right? You're not an accountant. A lot of us aren't. But there's people out there like yourself who's obviously able to help people like us. So.
Yeah, no, it's the same thing. Like if you're first starting out, start out with a sole proprietor. You don't need to run out and register a trademark and do all that. Just figure out if you like it. Figure out if what you're trying to sell hunts. And if it hunts, great. Then start getting a little bit more legit. And if you decide this is a business for you and you want to grow, then start putting the infrastructure around it. Is it going to be ideal? No. Are you going to have some hiccups along the way? Sure, but save some money. Figure out first if it's going to work.
Yeah, for sure. We got Sam here says, as a Canadian looking to establish and grow FBA business worldwide, what would make sense tax-wise? To register a private company in the States or Canada or any other countries, keeping in mind growth into other markets? We just kind of answered that. I'm actually in the process of expanding my, I was talking to Rob about this earlier, but I'm expanding into the European market. I'm going to be sharing that process with you guys in terms of how I'm going to get there. Funny enough, today, one of the Amazon reps actually reached out to me. He was an account manager. He reached out to me, asked if, wanted me to expand to Europe, I guess. And I said, perfect timing, because I was literally talking to my accountant a couple of days ago. So I'll keep you guys posted with regards to that matter. JC asked, what are considered startup expenses / costs for a new business in US, but I guess it's in anywhere. There is some tax consideration for these expenses upfront. What specific reports do we need to download from Seller Central?
Well, that was a multi-part question. So, okay, break it down for me.
Yeah. What are considered startup expenses costs for a new business? I mean, inventory, softwares, mostly inventory for Amazon sellers, right?
Yeah, I mean, and the inventory is an asset until you actually sell it. But I mean, your regular costs, it's usually pretty low. I mean, you can go and incorporate for a couple $100. If you want to have a sole proprietor, you're just like, okay, I'm open for business. I'm going to operate under Rob's Consulting. Maybe you want to go and register a doing business as, like in Ontario, you pay $60 and you can register a doing business name. So it's, Rob's Wacky Toys, and I can register that. And if someone gives me a check, I can deposit it in my bank account. No big deal. I mean, if you're a new Amazon seller, you pick whatever you want for a random storefront. Who cares? The other startup costs, I mean, you want to go buy a computer or some paper and things like that. Great. I mean, you don't need to worry about that if you're a sole proprietor. If you're setting up a corporation, then that's a difference, because at that point you're saying, okay, the corporation is its own separate entity, its own being. It makes money, it pays taxes. So if you set that up, then you're going to take your own assets. Like if you're going to say, fine, I'm going to move my computer and my monitor, and I'm going to give inventory to the company, then that's different, and that's an actual startup cost that you're putting in and you're contributing to the company. The other regular startup, I mean, you can go buy a new computer and you can buy some paper and supplies, but I mean, that's the nice thing about an Amazon business. You don't need that much to start, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We also got, he asked, what specific reports do we need to download from Seller Central when you're doing year-end accounting, et cetera? What kind of reports do we need to give to you?
Make sure you get all your sales summaries. So there's Amazon has a really nice one page. You can usually have to download it by the month because it won't let you do more than 180 days. So you can break it up by a month or a quarter. And that's all your sales and all your Amazon fees in one nice page. And it usually has your sales tax on there. The other thing you want to grab is your ending inventory. So your inventory reports under fulfillment, you can go in there. I have it on my blog. You can send a link through, but you go onto that one and you download your inventory at the end of the year in December, and then you have to go through and value it. So if you have inventory labs, you can just take a report out of there. If you don't, go into Seller Central, go into fulfillment reports, and then download the inventory. Just choose the monthly one, December to December. That'll give you all your items. Then you've got to go through and assign them values. So either figure out, hey, it's worthless, or it's less than what I paid, or what your cost is. Then that's your ending inventory. Those are kind of the key ones from Seller Central.
Okay, awesome. Let me ask, I think this question has been answered already. Do we need to incorporate when starting? Guess no. Or can we start under our own personal name? And I've heard that milestone in 10K to register a company. I'm a Canadian living in Montreal, so do I need after to register my company in Quebec, Canada, or US? Thank you.
Quebec is its own country inside of Canada as far as tax. It's so a little bit more complicated. But you can spend $250 or $300 and go register a company straight away. And you don't necessarily have to register. I mean, you can register it federally, you can do it provincially, but just a quick Google search, you can register it directly with the government organizations. You don't need 10 grand. You don't need to pay a lawyer. You can do it. The only things really you need to go through and figure out is who are the directors, who are the owners, and where's your head office located. Most people are like, well, I'm going to be the owner. It's at my house, and I'm the director. So one director and 100 common shares at $1 each, penny each. You just simple. Like fill in the blanks as it goes. $200. Save yourself $500 for a lawyer to do it. One thing though that people do, a lot of different reasons you can incorporate, but one, if you're going to start getting into, particularly talk about private label, beauty products and stuff. I know you've done some of them. One worry is the liability. I'm not talking about insurance, but there is definitely liability and some protection and liability by setting up a corporation. It's one thing to go and say, okay, fine, I'll try a product, I'll sell it myself. If you're doing something that, you could face product liability or lawsuits or, ingestibles or, some topicals, things like that. If you do set up a corporation, it does give you some protection because it's the corporation and it's the assets in the corporation. They're susceptible and at risk if you ever got sued versus you being sued personally and your house is at risk and, your car and your Beanie Baby collection and whatever else, right? So there is some merit to setting up a corporation right from the start. In my opinion, if you're going to get into some of these riskier categories where you could get sued, it's a fact. It sucks, but particularly in America, they like to sue quickly.
Yeah, that's for sure. Oscar asks, can you tell us what the W-8 form is for and who gets it?
The W-8 is so that if you're a non-U.S. resident, you're attesting that you're a non-U.S. resident and your primary beneficiary owner isn't an American, so that they'll send you the full amount and they won't withhold any foreign taxes, basically.
Okay, cool. Private message here says, let's see here. Would you be able to talk about duties to the States? Not really sure what that means.
Probably shipping stuff actually from Canada down to the States and what duties they actually charge. I'm not an expert on it. There's
that's freight forward. That's more freight forwarding question. That's not an accounting question. But I guess the duties. Okay, so let's try to see what he's thinking here. So if I'm paying duty,
if you're paying duty to send stuff into the States and you have to pay that on your products, that's a legit business expense. Absolutely.
That's an expense. Okay.
No, that's fine. The only thing is you're not going to be able to claim it back. Like if you bring in stuff from, let's say, China into Canada, quite often you'll get a report saying from, Customs and Border, hey, we're going to charge you $100. When we actually look at the detail, what are they charging? Quite often a large chunk of that is the GST or HST on. And that, if you're properly registered, you can get it back. Versus, right. Cost of doing business, but if you're actually registered, you get that cash back. The other thing you should consider too, most people when they register, because they're small, they only have to report annually. If you're selling a lot into the States and you're buying a lot in Canada, or paying a lot of GST and HST, and you're going to be in a refund position, consider electing to file quarterly. Because that means that you're going to file it every 3 months instead of waiting all year, and you're going to speed up your cash flow. You're always in a refund, and you're spending, especially people that are doing, sourcing in Canada and selling into the States, they're always in refunds. So that speeds it up. Every 3 months you're going to file. Yeah, it takes a little bit more time, but you're getting that cash flow and you can turn it over. The other thing is new Amazon sellers, particularly if you're in a refund in your HST and GST, they always seem to get audited the first time because CRA just figures out, you're doing something wrong. You sold $100,000, you collected zero sales tax, and you want $20,000 back. Something's wrong.
Right.
So then they'll audit you, easy enough to go through. I've taken a bunch of clients through it, handled them no problem. However, that drags on for another month and a half. And again, it's cash flow impact, especially if you're a heavy, sourcer in Canada sending into the States, it hurts.
Right. No, that's a good point. We have another question here from Jim. Jim asks, you mentioned when asked for a reseller certificate for wholesalers and distributors in US, just use their GST number. Is that correct? If I have a IEN or EIN, can I use that for tax ID reseller certificate in the US? Sure,
if you have all that. But most of the time I have no problem just giving them a GST or an HST number. These guys, they just want to open accounts and they just want to check the boxes. I tell my clients, hey, just give them a GST, HST number. They really don't care. Right. And then say, I'm ready to make a purchase and I don't need terms and here's my credit card. Don't give them reasons to say no. Don't start asking them additional questions. Do you need an EIN? This isn't an accounting advice. This is a business advice. Just check the box, give them a number, let them move on. But I've never had any problem just giving, wholesalers and HST, and none of my clients have. It's been pretty easy. That's why people think, oh, I need to go get an EIN. And the reseller certificates are usually only if you're registered in that state, and they're pretty specific. So just give a GST number. See if it works.
If it doesn't, then resort to the second option. Okay, Andre asks, I am based in Canada at the moment, and I'm in the process of registering a corporation in the States. Oh, that's Rob just said, don't do that. Do I need to file taxes in both Canada and the US if I'll be selling in both countries? Do I need separate business registered in Canada at all? How do I keep my tax minimal in this situation? by not registering in the
Well, if you
States?
register a corporation in the States, you're going to have to file in the States. And then
That's
you just
good.
got to think,
I heard that's a big headache, eh?
yeah, it's complicated because then you still need to get the money out of there back to Canada. And it depends on the type of formation. Like, you can't be part of an S Corp. You probably do an LLC. I don't know if it's an LP and you can pass it through. But the fact is, you're still going to have to figure out how to bring that money back into Canada. And then you set up a Canadian corp and you think you're smart and you're like, oh, I'm going to sell from my US to Canadian or vice versa. You know, that opens a whole other thing because where is the profits? Are you trying to keep the profits in the Canadian company or the US, and what price are you selling between the corporations? I've gone through those audits, those international audits, and they're a disaster. They're complicated. You know, again, I just like to try to keep things simple. If you're, you know, big and you're selling all kinds and you've got multiple corporations doing multiple millions, fine. But, you know, again, if you're Canadian, I try to avoid it.
Yeah, for sure. So how about bank account? Should we have it in US or is it okay to have Canada? If it's USD account, borderless, apparently we can lose money on multiple exchanges. I'm actually curious to know what your clients do, because I have a business account with TD and Amazon US. I sell on Amazon.com, and they cannot deposit money into my business account because there's something called like an ACH code or something. So
is this a Canadian-based US dollar account?
Yeah.
Right.
And they're not able to. That's the issue, exactly. And what I did was I had to open a cross-border account, but it's a personal account. But Amazon would deposit money into the personal account, and then I'll funnel that back into my Canadian business USD account.
That's common. I won't tell you exactly what my clients do, but I'll say that's very common.
Okay.
Because the problem is, all of a sudden, once they find out that it's a business account, they're like, oh, great, well, we're going to charge you $100 a month now in bank fees to maintain this account.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know, I mean, run it as long as you can, but the problem is, you know, if you're getting $50K a month in your personal account, eventually they're going to pick up the phone and call you. You know, I've had some clients that have had that, have done the RBC, like they run the RBC Georgia account. So RBC Georgia is a RBC branch. It's like a virtual branch. It's based in the States, and it's mainly targeted for snowbirds so that they can pay their mortgage in US dollars. But you can receive money so you can get the Amazon payment there. Then in the US dollars, you transfer it up to your RBC US dollar account in Canada, maintaining the US dollars. And then the question is, okay, then how are you converting it out? Now, one trick that I've learned, because I'm an RBC client, if I actually go in to the teller or the manager and I ask them for the preferred rate, their staff rate, they'll give it to me and I'll save like almost a point.
Mm-hmm.
But I always had to go in and say, okay, I'm going to move 10 grand. I want to buy Canadian, sell my US. Can you give me the preferred rate? Usually they call over manager, override it. And, you know, you do it a few times, they get to know you in that branch, and then, you know, you can just email them. But, you know, that's good. I know guys that'll move their money to the money changers and brokers and some other ones, but I don't know. Not a big fan of wiring $50,000 to a money broker. I'm sure it's fine, and, you know, I have clients that do it, but that's just not my thing, personally.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, guys, at the bank, you can literally ask for anything off. Like, if you guys ever get a late interest charge on your credit card, you can call Visa and they will waive that off for you. You can't abuse it, but I've done it many times. I've ran out of money on my account before, and Visa tried to charge me for it because it was an automatic payment. And if you didn't have money in your checking account, they charge you like $50 as some sort of interest or a late fee or whatever. You can literally just call the bank, be like, I don't want to pay for that. And then they'll waive that fee for you, because it's worthwhile for them to keep you as a client for a long time, because they can make a lot more money than just $50. So that's a small little hack there.
I'll tell you on that, what we're talking about that in the banks, if you're going to quit your job and you're going to start a new business, or you're going to do anything life-changing, you're getting divorced, whatever it is, just go and ask for all the increases from the bank that you can. You know, get your credit card increased, get an unsecured line of credit, do all that stuff while you still have a pay stub. Don't do it after and then say, oh, hey, I just started a new business. Can I get a line of credit? Raise money when you can. And you don't need to, because when you need it, they won't give it to you. So before you do anything, if you're gonna...
I should have known this 2 weeks ago.
Sorry.
Imagine 2 weeks late.
Give them a pay stub from a few weeks ago. They'll be fine. But like, because as soon as you say that you can't, or if they ask you, hey, I just need to increase my line of credit. Okay, what are you doing? I don't know. I'm going to propose. I need to buy a ring. I'm going to go on vacation. Like, doesn't matter. Just make something up. Don't tell them you're going to go start a business on the side.
Yeah.
You know, quit your full-time job, but do those things to raise the cash when you can, because when you want it and you don't have that steady job, they're not going to give it to you.
Oh, that's really good advice. I wish I heard that earlier. If you use a credit card, okay, let's see what's here. If you use a credit card that gives you cash back or points, do you have to account for that value in your taxes, or can you use it on personal expenses? If you're getting cash back, how much cash are you getting back? 20 G's, 30 G's?
I don't know. I don't have anybody that, I'm sure if you go in the tax code somewhere, if you're getting some sort of benefit, it might be a taxable benefit somewhere, but I don't think it's an issue. None of my clients. The only thing you got to watch is if if you're running a corporation, you got employees, and you start using some of that to get gift cards, and you're giving them the gift cards, so you're not running that through payroll, then, like $100 or $200 is kind of probably okay. But if you start, using credit card rewards and you're getting $1,000 gift cards and you're giving it to your employees, then, that's what kind of raises the eye and an issue. I mean, you tell me, hey, I took a free trip, off all my points, and we went to Disney World with the family. So everybody does.
Right.
I wouldn't get too fussed about that.
Cool. He also asks, I'm in the US and I have an LLC elected as an S Corp. In order to have this S Corp election, we have to pay ourselves a reasonable salary. However, what if, so there's two parts. Number one is there is technically no profit to distribute. And maybe we can just answer that one first. If there's no profit distribute, then what do? You
pay yourself out of savings?
Okay.
Right, there's no money to go. There's no money to go.
Yeah. And what if you use the profits to reinvest back into the business, like inventory purchases?
So I'm not a U.S. expert, and I don't know all the details, but I think an S Corp basically is taxed in your own hands. It's kind of like a sole proprietor, if I'm not wrong. Then, yeah, I mean, if it's taxed in your own hands as you bring it in, you've got to pay tax on that, right? I'll speak to in Canada, you have a corporation, the corporation pays tax on it. Then you can decide when to take it out of the corporation into you personally, and that's when you pay tax on it. So depending on how your LLC or your S Corp is set up, that could be the issue. One of the benefits of having the corporation is you get a bit of a tax deferral. It's not a tax avoidance. You're still going to pay tax. So, once you finally take that money into your hands personally, you're going to pay money on it. But it allows you to defer and build up some. That's another reason why people get excited about a corporation is, you make profits in that, you pay a 15% tax, you've got a lot more profits to reinvest, versus if you made that money directly as a sole proprietor, you can be at 30, 40, 50% tax rate. It's just less to reinvest. So, some of my clients get to the point, they're like, look, I can live on my partner's salary and income. I'm going to set up a corporation and I'm just going to reinvest all my profits to keep building that up until we get to, 2 or 3 years, and then we can live off what we've accumulated there. So, that's an option.
Right. Do you have any suggestions for an accountant in Montreal to specialize in Amazon FBA clients or business? Do you take Quebec residents as clients?
I've done filings. I've done filings for Quebec. I'm just not a Quebec expert. If you tell me, I've written some articles about different Quebec tax rates and things, but I'm not an expert in it. But yeah, I mean, depending if you're a sole proprietor or a corporation, it's all the same rules. It's just little small nuances. That's all.
Right.
So yes, I do.
Awesome. So where can people find you, Rob? If they want to get a hold of you after and get some accounting done?
Sure. My website is Cosman, JONESCOSMAN.com.
Can you type that into the chat box?
So I put that in this message here?
Yeah.
There you go.
Cool. And we also have a question from the Facebook group, actually. Hey, Rob, I'd like to form a Ontario LP as a non-resident, pass-through entity, availability of one-man limited partnership, no corporate tax if business operate outside of Canada. Would you mind pointing me the very first steps to do it with the government? Service providers are asking $2,000 Canadian.
Probably a lawyer. I don't have anybody that I know right off. I've had a couple clients do the LPs. It is a little bit more complicated, but I'd suggest, like, the LP, you want to make sure that you do it right. You know, an LP is a limited partnership where basically the earnings would all happen in that company and then be distributed out. So if you were an overseas owner, but I mean, that was half of what the Panama Papers and that was about, was limited partnerships in Quebec, actually. So I'm not going to touch that one.
Okay, awesome. Do you have any referrals for an expert accountant for business in the US?
An Amazon one, I don't. I mean, I think a lot of people use Anna Hill. I think she runs a group down there. Everyone seems to like her.
Do you have any clients who are US based, or do you only service?
My clients that are US based aren't Amazon usually.
Okay.
So I've got mostly a lot of people that have dual citizenships. Usually, may have a US, so they'll have to file a US return and a Canadian return. And I'll have an accountant file the US return, and then I'll take out the Canadian, and then we file them both together so you don't get double taxed. Yeah, I've got a few of them, but not exactly any of my clients. One guy's a rock star, plays in a band, legit rock star. Kind of funny.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's pretty much all the questions that people have. I mean, as always, guys, like, I'm going to be posting Rob's information in the Facebook group. Seems like it's more of a, he can definitely help out some of the Canadians here. And if you guys are looking out for, that was the last piece of puzzle I needed. Yeah, if you guys are looking for an expert accountant in the States, what's her name? Anita Hill or Anna Hill?
I don't remember. I'm part of her group, and she has good stuff. Let me find it. Okay. I don't know. I know she's got a good group. Kind of where we'll go. Let me find it. Anna Hill. Accounting, Anna. We will know.
So ANNA Hill?
Yep. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Some stuff there, and I know there's some guys that there's a couple CPAs on there that I think probably do fine, but.
Sweet. Yeah, guys, don't overcomplicate it. Like, if you guys are not doing like multi-million dollars in sales, I really don't recommend, nor does Rob, getting an American company formed, because my parents are Canadian, but they live in Los Angeles and they have their own business across border as well. And my mom is actually an accountant. She taught accounting in China as a professor, so she knows a thing or two about general accounting. And every single year, the tax season, she just stresses like the hell out. She's going insane because she got the Canadian side of things, she's got the US side of things, and a bunch of things going on. I have no idea how everything works, but I can just see the stress in her eyes. So maybe keep it simple. Keep it simple. That's the message you get out of the webinar. Keep it simple.
Spend the time and set up your bookkeeping right from the start. It's January. It's a new year. The end of this month, go download your credit card statement and upload it into QuickBooks or Wave, and just start to do it right from the start. Last year's already kind of done and gone. Start the year off right and get into the right habit now.
For sure. Actually, before one last question on my end here. When you said bookkeeping, so download your statements, right? Maybe do it once every month. Once you download the statements, what do you do after that? Do you just label every transaction saying that this was an expense, this was a meal, this was, kind of categorize them? Just sort them out?
So most of either QuickBooks or Wave will have a bunch of pre-populated expenses. You really just need to have a few buckets, and it's kind of how you want to look at your business. And I tell most clients, like, look, call things either purchases and Amazon expenses, like the FBA fees and things. You can group them out. You can say, this is my FBA fee. This is the actual referral fee. This is the gift wrapping fee. You can do all that detail if you want, or you just call it Amazon expenses. You call it purchases. And then the rest of the stuff is, office expenses, meals and entertainment. Make sure you keep that separate because that's where it can get dicey. And then a few other things, mileage or whatnot. You don't need a list this long. You keep it down to a few things and try to keep it simple. So then great, you download your bank statement or your credit card statement, you upload it. Great, I bought these 5 things from Walmart. Those all go to purchases. This one's Staples, Office Depot. Well, that was an office supply. Just class that here. Here was a dinner out. Class that in meals. The rest of them go to purchases because it's all inventory. Like, you don't need to overly complicate it. Just, try to keep it simple.
So what do you mean by writing down your referral fees? And because I thought we're just talking about the bank statements. But
right,
in the bank,
that's your bank statements. That's half of it. That's all your expenses. The other half you're going to have to pull in is your sales. So every month, go to Amazon and say, okay, I'm going to download my monthly summary. And on that, you're going to get all your sales and you're going to get your Amazon fees. Now, your sales are your revenue. Your Amazon fees are still expenses. And the net is what the actual cash that they gave you. But you still have to record the total revenue and the Amazon expenses.
Okay.
Other thing, too, for Canadians that a lot of people overlook, when Amazon charges you.
Hey, Rob, you're cutting out. You got cut off for like a good 10 seconds there.
Okay, so the one thing this was the nugget. If you're a Canadian and Amazon has to charge you HST on their fees. So if you go into your reports every month, you probably get an email that says, here's your invoice from Amazon. Here's whatever your Amazon FBA fees were, and here's the sales tax that they're charging you on that service. You claim that back as GST or HST. So you can go in and you can request it again under your document library. It's the Amazon invoices. So every month you can re-request it. You go through each one of those and take the HST. So they charge you $100, $200 in HST, claim that back in your HST return. It's free money. A lot of people don't think about that. They just claim it as an expense.
Right. No, that's a good point. One last question here from Kate Y. I came in a couple minutes late. Not sure if you guys went over this, but I'm based in the U.S. with a U.S. LLC, now selling in Canada. What do I need? A GST number and a file? That's all? So Americans selling Canadian or in Canada?
Yeah, you can register for GST and file it as a non-resident corp. Yeah.
Cool.
You should be able to grab it. You might have to actually call them to make sure that you get it properly registered, but yeah, you can get a GST number. No problem.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, well, thanks for everybody for your time. I think that's pretty much all the questions that we've gotten here. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This was kind of like a first live webinar ever. If you guys liked it, please let me know in the group or on my YouTube channel or whatever it is. And of course, I'm going to attach Rob's information in the group as well. So if you guys do want to hire Rob to take care of your accounting, obviously he's super knowledgeable. That can definitely happen. So yeah, that's pretty much about it. Do you have any last words, Rob, or it's pretty much good to go?
No, man, start the new year off right. Do your bookkeeping now so it doesn't creep up on you. Spend a little bit of time and get organized. And if you're getting serious and you want to grow, look at setting up a corporation.
For sure. Awesome. Okay, guys. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed this. I hope you all have a good night. And yeah, let me know how I can help next time. If you guys have any other questions with regard to freight forwarding, if you guys want me to do more of these, if you guys like these, I'll do more. Just let me know, and then we'll get everything started. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom.
Okay, have a good night, Rob. Okay, bye now.